York, the atmosphere, and the crowd that never tame. Mets Postgame show brings the flame.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the New York Mets post-game show right here on the channel. What a win by the New York Mets, again coming back from behind to take the series against the LA Angels. That is now 3 wins in a row for your New York Mets. And as you all know, what does 3 wins in a row mean? That is called a winning streak. I got my guy Nick in the chat in the building right now with us. Nick, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great, man. Salute to my guy CP. I said earlier today that I was coming on to celebrate the Mets' 3-game winning streak. Full disclosure, I also said that Francisco Lindor was going to have a big game at the plate today. So, hey, you win some, you lose some, but these last 3, the Mets have found a way to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And Francisco Lindor definitely did not have a big day at the plate. But you know what? You were 1 for 2. That's batting 500 at this point, which is something that we will definitely take all day long. For those of you all who are with us in this live chat right now, we definitely appreciate you all being here for this New York Mets victory. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up buttons on this stream. Definitely appreciate it. Helps the channel grow. Subscribe if this is your first time coming across this stream. If you enjoy the discussions, make sure to subscribe. And don't only subscribe to my channel, but Nick also has his own channel over on YouTube. You can find the link directly to his channel down below in the description. Make sure to go subscribe for more videos and streams from Nick as well. And as always, you all know what to do. Drop those comments in the live chat. And as is customary, because I'm pretty sure the last time we had you on the channel, it's been a while, by the way. So I'm really happy to see you on this screen alongside with me talking Mets baseball. I know that the Knicks season is over and we got to talk Mets baseball now, the summer league action, etc. Okay, who cares? But we gotta spam some W's in the chat, baby. Chat. Come out with the W's in the chat. Let's go. It's a Mets victory. Boom. I love it. I love it. Look at Zach spamming the W's, watching on his way home. He was at the game tonight. Salute to my guy, Zach. Also do post-game shows with him. Oliver spamming the W's. Cindy, George. It's awesome. Mike is spamming the W's. Lynn is spamming the W's. It is awesome to see. The chat is lively. Nights are better when the New York Mets win. Nights are better when the New York Mets win. It's a series victory, 3 games in a row. And let's start out with the pitching aspect of tonight's game. And if you do hear my puppy in the background barking, I definitely do apologize about that. But let's talk about this box score because it's another respectable performance from Frankie Montas. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs given up. A season-high 91 pitches on the day for Frankie Montas, and he lowers the ERA to 4.62, which in the grand scheme of things is still a little bit elevated. But Frankie Montas, who's got a couple of starts under his belt now, is throwing the baseball extremely well. He does give up 8 hits. And like I mentioned, the Mets came back in this game yet again. In the first game, it was a 4-0 comeback. This time, it's a 2-0 comeback. And we'll talk about the offense here in just a second. But the hits were a little bit elevated. But the strikeouts, a lot of good put-away stuff from Frankie Montas alongside those 2 walks. And the pitching as well, like the bullpen, Nick. We talked about in the post-game stream yesterday how well this bullpen has done, even despite the injuries, even despite having guys like Rico Garcia on the mound, right? Kevin Hergert yesterday. And the list goes on and on and on throughout the season. What did you make of the pitching aspect of, the pitching side of things for the New York Mets in this ball game, in this win tonight?
Listen, when it comes to Montas, Everybody was very worried. Obviously, he starts off the season with the injury. Then, when he's on the comeback trail and he is getting those rehab starts, the numbers don't look good. And you're like, okay, well, we need some help in the rotation now. And this guy's coming back. And you know, what are we going to see? And it definitely hasn't all been perfect, especially that second start. But you look at tonight and his ability, like you said, not just to get the strikeout, but to get it in the big moment. You see, I would disagree with Dolo Supreme saying that Montas was very lucky tonight. I would say that he created his own luck by stepping up in the big moments and getting the big strikeouts. The times where, you know, you got a guy, you know, first and second, you got guys on base, there's only one out. Let's go ahead and get this strikeout right now and give us a chance to be able to get out of this inning. So I thought he was excellent tonight. Another big start for him. We have that starting rotation hole for the first time all season, and hopefully we can see them, you know, get a little bit more length, as Gary was talking about. But then, like you said, the bullpen, they're starting to look like that bullpen that we saw at the beginning of the season. And you know, whenever you talk to me about baseball, I'm not one of these guys who gets super up and down from game to game, from week to week, even sometimes from month to month, because what you see over the course of a season is no team just does this. And the teams that do this, they do this and they get right there to the top, like the Mets with the Braves a couple seasons ago, and they fall off the cliff and it's over. Most teams do this throughout the season. So I'm almost thinking to myself at this point, yo, we might need to have a good little stint from the bullpen here. They might need to fall off a little bit and then get hot in late September.
That's a very good point too, and I think that the best example of that of this season so far is the team that had the best record in baseball coming into tonight, which was the Milwaukee Brewers, and they were chasing the Chicago Cubs pretty much all season long up until just recently when they caught a hot streak, and that is exactly right, 100%. Now I will say that I'm 100% one of those Mets fans that, you know, maybe my opinions definitely do change from game to game, and I do get bogged down a little bit, especially as we're in late July, of some of those changes that we're seeing. And I will talk about those changes from the offensive standpoint because I still don't think that this was a great showing, especially a guy like Kyle Hendricks that had a 4+ ERA on the mound, just as the lefty did yesterday for the Angels going, and they really couldn't get to him. I think it was Tyler Anderson on the mound yesterday. They couldn't get to him until the seventh inning. But from the pitching aspect, right? Clearly, this bullpen is going to need help. And by the way, I just want to say, I still had no confidence in Ryan Stanek tonight, and I'm so happy that he proved me wrong. I'm so happy Ryan Stanek proved me wrong. So I want to give a little bit of a round of applause for Mr. Ryan Stanek, and that's 2 saves in his last 3 outings, I believe the broadcast said. You know, it got a little bit hairy there in that 9th inning after 2 base runners got on. Mike Trout was coming up, but he gets the out and he gets the save with Edwin Diaz not being available. And that's exactly what it's all about. But again, Rico Garcia, you know, as we all know, he did, you know, pretty well in his first stint with the Mets, then goes to the Yankees after being DFA'd, does really poorly over there. They let him go. The Mets pick him back up, and he's just kind of rotating between the 2 boroughs of, you know, New York City. And he comes back to the Mets and delivers a really strong performance. And I want to make sure to shout him out because he definitely deserves that. And Reed Garrett was also just solid in this, you know, this ball game as well, setting things up for Ryan Stanek. So I think that we all know there's going to be bullpen help on the way. David Stearns was not shy about that in his press conference the other day about adding bullpen pieces at this deadline. And if you're a New York Mets fan, especially with the state of the bullpen on paper, you can expect to see not 1 but 2 bullpen arms coming over, whether it's a package deal or a single deal for the New York Mets at this trade deadline. So was really, you know, pleased with the pitching. But for me, just to see Frankie Montas be this comfortable on the mound, nobody's going to expect to, you know, see a show-stopping performance from Frankie Montas. He's going to up the base runners. He's a couple of earned runs. But as long as we are getting a competitive start out of who should be the 5th pitcher in this rotation, that is exactly the type of performance tonight that we should expect and love and appreciate from Frankie Montas. That is just night and day different than what he posted in most, if not all, of his rehab outings. In AAA when he was coming back up. So a round of applause all around for the pitching, but especially Frankie Montas as well. All right. Like I said, make sure to hit those thumbs up buttons. Keep on dropping those comments in the live chat and vote in the live chat poll. This is your New York Mets post-game show with my guy, Nick. But let's talk about the offense here. Let's talk about the box score with the offense because the Mets got off to another slow start offensively. And I think that this is right now, even with a 3-game win streak, and the Mets keeping pace with the Phillies because the New York Mets are also a half game out of the division still. The Phillies have taken the first 2 from the Boston Red Sox. Hey, Red Sox, can you please give us some help here? I mean, we're trying to overtake the division back here, and the Phillies seem to get things going. So it's good that we're keeping pace, and it's good that we're keeping pace even given a slow offense. Now, the bottom of the lineup, I mean, I will, while you're talking, I'm going to download one more slide here so we can take a look at the splits for Brett Beatty here over the past 2 weeks and a month because, I mean, he's tearing the cover off baseball. And we're going to talk about Francisco Alvarez because the title of my stream right now is Francisco Alvarez back? Is he back? And we can talk about that, and I want you to get into that in your opinion, Nick, especially with how everything has played out. Francisco Alvarez getting sent down. Luis Torrens is the primary catcher, not giving the Mets much offense, although we know he's elite defensively. Alvarez goes back down to AAA, hits 11 home runs, OPS, 900 plus. And the Mets and David Stearns even said that they were not planning to call him back up this soon, but I guess the lack of production, how well he was doing in AAA, kind of forced their hand. But just talk about how refreshing and maybe just breathing a sigh of relief of winning ball games when you have your 2 guys in this quote-unquote Fab Four that Steve Cohen talked about, in Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, essentially right now looking lost at the plate. But this offense is doing, I guess, just enough, and the pitching is also holding up their end of the bargain. So what do you see from this offense? And you can point out any name that you'd like at this point.
I don't know if I'm quite as high as you are on Mr. Brett Beatty and how high you are. Well, I haven't always been as high on him as you are. I know I always give you credit for him and Vientos as guys that, you said from the beginning these guys were going to be legitimate hitters in this league. But there was a time where you got very sour on Beatty at first. At first you were into him, then you got very sour on Beatty. And I mean, the whole world did, and rightfully so. And for the first time in his major league career, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, I think this guy is figuring it out. Like, I really do legitimately think the way that he is understanding not to take meat pitches early in at bats and then get behind, and now he's swinging at balls at his shoes. And the way that when he is barreling a ball up, he is actually finding some grass. I'm starting to wonder, like, yo, is it comes because it's not too long ago where I was like, yo, I might not. I don't care if I ever see this guy again. Alvarez is running all over the place. He plays a good third base. I'm thinking Vientos is going to be a legitimate, DH option for us and have to play some third base. Mauricio, we know what he can do. But now it just goes to show you the ebbs and flows of a season, because now Brett Beatty has now worked himself back into it where it's like, I need his bat. I need his glove. He's looking like one of the more viable options as the third baseman with getting a little bit of time at second. And that's the thing. Something's got to give there. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about trades or whatnot, but something's got to give there. Now, we've talked about the Frankie on the rubber. Now we absolutely have to start talking about the Frankie at the plate, because, yo, man, this is 2 nights in a row. I know that ball out in right field was terribly played by Ward last night, but at the end of the day, you got to look at the results. He at least made it a play, hit the ball to the wall. And tonight, I thought his approach in that at bat where he ends up getting the 2-run home run, I was less impressed with the home run than I was with the pitches he took leading up to the home run. He got behind in the count, I'm pretty sure 1-2. And he took a ball inside off the plate that I just see him swinging over a million times. throughout, his stint here, and especially here this season and last season, to be quite frank. And he goes down, he gets a little bit more selective at the plate. He talked about that specifically. We saw it pay dividends today. And Alvarez now, if he can end up coming back and be something that's actually a threat for this team on the offensive end, he addresses our biggest need beyond any position, which is somebody who can hit sixth or seventh and really be someone that strikes fear in the pitchers and comes up with some results. McNeil, he can be in that sixth spot sometimes or whatnot, but like, listen, man, if we can get this guy to be anywhere close to what we expected him to be or what he was when he first came up, the average doesn't have to be high, but I just need you to drive in some runs and hit some balls very far. And he absolutely has the ability to do that, does Francisco Alvarez. The one thing tonight that did annoy me a little bit was towards the end of the game, there's a ball that is hit to his right side. He reaches for it, doesn't move his body. We know that's some of the other things he's supposed to be working on. We also know that, I coach Little League Baseball. Come on, guy. You got to move your body a little bit. I know everybody stands on one knee. Keith hates it. I hate it. But you got to be able to be a little bit better with that and not give up that pass ball in that spot. But hey, man, I'm loving what I'm seeing from him in these first 2 games back. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Mets these last 3 games. The only thing I don't love is that I feel like we are definitely we're definitely going to see some more of these City Connect jerseys, and that's not necessarily my
favorite. That's actually 3 nights in a row or 3 games.
And you can't go away. Can you go away from it right now?
No, you're 3 for 3 in the last 3 games of the City Connects. There's clearly, I do believe someone, and I didn't even know this right until someone stated this, but I think the pitchers of that game select like which jerseys the Mets are going to wear, whether it's the black uniforms, the City Connects, or the classic pinstripes. And maybe there's a mojo going with these City Connects, to be honest. I don't hate them. I don't hate them at all. I do like I love the black jerseys. I'm a big black jersey proponent. But I also like the classic white pinstripes. I think all 3, it's a 3 for 3 for me. But yeah, the mojo is very good with those City Connects, whether you like them or not. So that's something that we might continue to see a little bit more often, because baseball players, even, if you think it's dumb, some of them are superstitious. And I think that definitely has to take some factor in these decisions. But you're absolutely right. And when you were talking, I thought you meant, when you said Frankie, I thought you were going to talk about Francisco Lindor for a second there. But you're talking about Francisco Alvarez.
Francisco Lindor has specifically stated that he does not like being called Frankie.
Correct. Exactly. And I was thinking that too. I was like, okay, this is Alvarez for sure. But Alvarez, the approach that you just stated, that's when you are getting the best version of Francisco Alvarez, because yesterday's ball game, before hitting that opposite field double off of the wall during that rally, he took 2 walks. He's being more selective. He's not being a free swinger even when he's down behind in the count. He seems like he's more poised, more patient, and more confident at the plate. And the mechanics, right? The mechanics look like they are back to Francisco Alvarez of 2023 and not doing whatever he was practicing in the offseason, whether Chavez and Barnes were in his ear or not. It's good to see that, because I think with those newer mechanics that he was trying to incorporate earlier on into the season when he came back off the IL, that was going to, just shock his power, right? Not in a good way. It was going to just dwindle it. And we see the power coming back, all fields. Yesterday off the wall, today over the fence, pull side for a 2-run home run to even the ball game at that point. So really good stuff from Francisco Alvarez. And I do agree with you. There is a clear defensive drop-off. Even though he threw a runner out yesterday, there is a clear defensive drop-off that we should expect at this point from Luis Torrens to Francisco Alvarez. That's not a question at this point. And we've seen that. Luis Torrens is one of the best defensive backup catchers or catchers in general.
That's what I was about to say. There's a big drop off from him to just about anybody. The guy has an absolute howitzer. And listen, he did also throw that ball in the right field a couple days ago. That lost us a game. But hey, everybody gets a mistake. He doesn't do stupid shit like that often. But yeah, man, overall, I mean, almost anybody is a big drop off from him. And if Alvarez can be a legitimate guy with an OPS in, like, say, the high sevens, then that just totally changes our entire lineup.
Yep. Especially if he's putting balls semi-consistently over the fence. I absolutely agree. That just lengthens the lineup. And if you can get him a little bit up in the order to move a guy like McNeil, who has also just proven me wrong this season as well, there's a lot of different combinations that you can move forward with if you're Carlos Mendoza. But I think that the one thing, even though we're seeing more production from Alvarez, Beatty, Mauricio, right? Beatty starts the rally tonight with 2 outs off of Kyle Hendricks with in the gap double and gets on base. Ronnie Mauricio keeps it going, and it turns it over. They turn it over to the top of the lineup. It was really good to see. Actually, Francisco Alvarez hit the 2-run home run, and then Ron Mauricio gets on base. Brandon Nimmo does the job, etc. But you know what I'm talking about here. That's really good to see, because I made a video when the Mets, it was in the middle of the whole, losing streak, the 3-week period where I don't even want to even, recount that this season, where I said the bottom of this lineup is abysmal and they need to get it going, or the Mets are not going to be where they are supposed to be at the end of the season. And they've heard me and everybody else that was complaining and bitching about the bottom of the lineup loud and clear. And I'm really happy for that, because these are the young guys. Let's be honest. These are all the young guys. It's not even Tyrone Taylor as of recent. It's Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, Francisco Alvarez, and Luis Angel Acuna as well, who's mixed in there just a little bit with the single yesterday to continue that rally as well. So I like what I'm seeing. I like the approach, even if these guys are not finding, consistent success, if they're not going 2 for 4, 3 for 4, if they're going 1 for 4, if I see them have a better approach, I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to make sure that everyone knows about it, because there was a time this season where a lot of Mets fans are like, we'd be happy with any production from the bottom of the lineup, and now we're getting that and then some. So really good stuff. And since we're talking about the bottom of the lineup, we might as well just bring up this graphic just to do Brett Beatty justice in how well he's been doing. Look at this. Look at this. 7 days. Last 7 days, 455 batting average, over 1,500 OPS. Last 14 days, 320, over 1,000 OPS. Last 28 days. That's not a fluke. That's not just a week. That's 28 days worth of a sample size. 295 batting average, 880 OPS with 9 RBIs. That's what I'm talking about, Brett Beatty. Listen, I was ready to run Brett Beatty out of town. I'm still not entirely sure if the Mets hold on to him, but I think now it's more likely than ever, especially what David Stern said in his press conference a couple of days ago, talking about, potentially moving some of that infield depth. But if you're going to do that, my first thought is you're talking about a guy like Luis Angel Acuna rather than a Beatty or Mauricio at that point. And by the way, I did drop a video today. If you all didn't check that out, if you missed it somehow, I dropped it earlier this afternoon around 2 p.m. I linked it in the description down below. I talked about a potential trade for a super utility guy that is available, according to John Heyman, in the Twins organization. And I'm not going to name the name, but I did propose. Actually, I didn't propose a trade package. It's my guy, Zach, who proposed a trade package, which I was okay with. And it did involve Luis Angel Acuna for that particular player. But, Nick, look at those numbers. That is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Listen, man, your overall opinion on Beatty over the last couple of years is a microcosm of a baseball season. And sometimes a baseball career, man. At the end of the day, man, look at Francisco Lindor. We got people in the chat. I think it was Oliver. I think he said that Lindor might need to get sent to AAA. Yo, listen, man, this is the sport that it is. It's always been this way. We all know the tropes. You're only successful 3 out of 10 times and you're a Hall of Famer. Yo, man, Beatty is a guy who has played every day and hit third and played third or probably played shortstop his entire life. And all of a sudden, he's in a situation where sometimes he's in, sometimes he's not. As soon as he makes some mistakes, it's early in the season. You don't have a ton of numbers, so the numbers look so bad. All of the microscope is on you. He's a guy that I think him going down to AAA and then coming up, being a little bit under the radar, and now kind of as he's emerging, being thrust into the situation where there's nobody else who's just taking third base or even second base by the balls and just like making it their position. So therefore, he's in the lineup almost every day. He looks great, but it's been a good week. He could have a bad week and it could all look bad, just like the bottom of this lineup and how it's looked this entire season. And now it's starting to look good when we got Pete and we got Lindor, who are like the best players, the best players in the world the first couple months. I'm talking about those two being like top 5 in the MVP race. And now we got the worst 0 for ever and Pete is 3 for 20, whatever. And it's just like, yo, man, baseball, it's one of those things where you basically want to play 50-50 all season and mix in a couple hot streaks. Now, we want to avoid the 10 and 20s like we just went through. But if you can just have one of those, but then if you have that huge, you play fantastic like we did early, 19 games over 500. Now all of a sudden you got a little bit of wiggle room. You just want to stay close enough to be a factor at the end. And then it really comes down to health and who's hot. Are we going to get the Stanek we saw so far this season? Or are we going to get the Stanek that we've seen this past weekend and change? That right there could be the difference between whether or not we, advance in a series or not. So I just sometimes I think when it comes to the individual players, when it comes to, from day to day, when it comes to Stearns, it's just everything is so reactionary, and it's like, yo, take a step back and realize just for a second. I know a lot of Mets fans have a hard time doing this, and I've been there through a lot of it. I was at Game 7 in 2006, all right? I've been through a lot of it. Listen, yo, over time, there's going to be ebbs and flows. This is the best it's ever been for us, ever in my lifetime, ever. We're a team that is upset with the fact that we're a half a game out and that we're, been well over 10 games over 500 the entire season. Yo, it's not that bad. The sky's not falling. We need some things. We could do some things differently. At the end of the day, Chavez and Barnes, they got to go. I don't know anybody who doesn't feel that way other than Stearns at this point. But, just sometimes we just got to chill, man. Sometimes we got to chill.
Yeah, I honestly, reading the chat too, I do think Oliver was joking. I hope, because it's not even possible for Lindor to even be sent down at this point. It's
right.
like
he doesn't have options.
He doesn't have no option. I
mean, it's just also not possible. Like, I mean, he could literally he could not get a hit for the rest of the season, and they might sit him a couple games, but they're never going to. It's just not even possible.
Yeah, and what Mike is saying here, I mean, he could still be feeling
the toe,
the effects.
The numbers are stark from that toe injury. It's stark how much it changed. Yeah,
100%. I mean, I think listen, the month of June, he was 204. And I know that batting average isn't the end all be all, but none of the other metrics for Francisco Lindor were really, eye opening there. So month of June, and at this point, I keep on thinking we're in mid-July. We're in late July. We're in the stages of the MLB trade deadline. He's having 2 months of this season that are drastically dropping his numbers. I mean, the overall average is at 245. Not that I care about average, but I care about OPS. And guess what? He's not even close to an 800 OPS at this point. And that's really the barometer of me, looking at respectable statistics. So, baseball season is ebbs and flows 100%. We're seeing that with Francisco Lindor. We're seeing we're seeing that with the Mets in general. But, I do think that as much of an impact as Lindor has on this team, this offense and this team really go at full throttle as he goes. So it would be a very good idea if Lindor could get going, because I think that as soon as he does, this team will skyrocket, and this offense will skyrocket into that top 10 offense, maybe top 5 offense that we borderline envision with the personnel coming into this season. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I definitely appreciate you all. Oliver, Mike, Uncuffed Sports Podcast. Lindor's swing was a bit better today. I just think it's 100% mental, overthinking so much at the plate instead of just going up there and hitting. Maybe ditch the torpedo bat. I didn't even think that. I didn't even know that he's still swinging that torpedo bat. I know McNeil does because he really likes the torpedo bat. And that has not been a conversation or a topic since the beginning of the season after the Yankees did what they did against the Brewers in like the first series or two, whatever. Nobody cares about the torpedo bat anymore. Nobody cares who's swinging it. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah, you move the barrel, the sweet spot of the barrel down or whatever. You still need to make solid contact. It's still about the quality of contact. And so that doesn't really matter too much, too much to me, I should say. But to each their own. And you did see the little clip of Francisco Lindor in the on deck circle talking and chopping it up with Mets owner Steve Cohen right before his at bat. So listen, I know Steve's out there watching. He's probably not watching his podcast, although I hope that there's a point where maybe he does watch these post games and takes into consideration what we think and feel. I'm just kidding. It'll never happen. But
Uncle Stevie's a big fan of the show.
Uncle Stevie's a big fan of a lot of Mets content, and I like that. I like that. You know what though? I will say this. I know that Steve Cohen is just prowling Twitter. He'll drop a bombshell tweet like every couple of weeks, and that's fine. But I just know that he's prowling. He just seems like one of those guys, which is fine. I like that because
it's amazing.
The Mets have haters, dude. Forget
that. Dude, we had the Wilpons. We now have a guy who is an actual fan of the team, the guy who operates it as if it's a philanthropic endeavor, and he happens to be the richest owner in sports. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes when people think the sky is falling, I'm like, yo, were you here for the Wilpons? Did you watch Zach Wheeler leave for damn near nothing?
It's true. Definitely.
Come on, man.
I mean, it's night and day different. It's night and day different. And so, while this team definitely has a lot of moves that need to be made, I would say, especially from the pitching aspect and the bullpen, I do think that a bat would be a good idea as well, especially given the inconsistencies of this first half, actually 100+ games this season. But there's a lot of moves to be had. I still hold faith in this Mets team to do it. I still do. Whether it's the trade deadline or whether it's the off season, if you know me and the channel, regardless of what streams and videos I'm doing, if you know me, I told you all from the beginning of this season, when it comes down to the trade deadline, I think that David Stearns will put his best foot forward. Is he going to make the blockbuster deadline move that everyone wants? Maybe, maybe not. But there's a lot of different ways to assess this team, especially with the underperformance of the offense. I think that they definitely need a bat and multiple bullpen arms. A starter is debatable depending on how confident you feel with Clay Holmes in your rotation, which is a separate topic of conversation. But go ahead. I see you have a thought with that. I'll let you take that away.
I'm not. You know what? I am somewhat confident with Clay Holmes in my rotation, but
okay.
I think that as the season goes on, and especially if we get like a McGill back and he's pitching the way he was before he started to show signs of this injury that end up putting him on the shelf, the bullpen, in addition to adding some arms, because I do feel like we need to do that. But again, your guy Brooks Raley just came back. He's another piece.
Ooh, stud.
Lefty. I know you love Raley. You've always loved Raley. And also, now Clay Holmes takes on like the David Peterson role of last year in the playoffs. Because we throw him in the bullpen, high leverage situations, can give you some length. And now I think that really dynamically changes the pitching staff. So you add another arm or two, Rayleigh's back, we get him in the bullpen when it comes to, you just got to get there, man. You just got to get there. Now, as far as the bat part, that's the part I'm not sure about because I just don't see the option out there when it comes to what you'd have to give up, what they potentially have as far as player options and things like that in these next couple years, and now you're paying, $20 million for a below average outfielder, and what we have coming up as far as just arms that are not that far away, that it's like, yo, do you get away one of these guys? He might not be up this year. He might be a guy who can come up late in the season and give you some. And I say this guy because there's a couple different people I could be talking about right now. So I don't even want to single anybody out in particular. But
On the pitching side of things, though, you're saying, right?
yes, on the pitching side of things,
Sproat, McLean, Tong, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
These are all guys that it's like, yo, man, I'm not ready to give up on one of these guys for some rental who, either isn't going to be on the team next year or, isn't. Nobody blows my socks off as far as the batter. And to me, it's less about position. It's more about a legitimate number 6 hitter. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we have so much positional versatility. Shout to my man Jeff McNeil, the Flying Squirrel, that we can mix and match and do a lot of different things. It's just about, are we going to be able to get big outs in high leverage situations, and are we going to hit the ball with runners in scoring position? Now, that's pretty simple to say. That's always the case for everybody, right? If you do those two things well, you're probably going to win a lot of games. But I feel like we have the pieces to be able to do that. I just don't feel like the offensive end is where we add. And I think that one of the things you have to keep in mind, like I said, is the potential of of Clay Holmes playing that Peterson role in the playoffs.
I definitely can see a situation where the Mets get into the playoffs. Maybe it's one of the last games of the series, and Clay Holmes does David Peterson of last season and finishes out a ball game or something like that, right? If Edwin Diaz is not available, which there's very few situations in the playoffs where Edwin Diaz should not be available. But I mean, we saw David Peterson last playoff run. I think that Clay Holmes could be that hybrid pitcher. I think that the Mets can add. I talked about in not this past video today, but in yesterday's video that I dropped, a pitcher that has done both in the A's organization, Jeffrey Springs, that is a hybrid reliever / starter that the Mets can definitely target via trade to also be one of those candidates, former Tampa Bay Ray, with really good stats in that organization. There's a lot of Stearns-esque moves this deadline in the bullpen category, but I do agree with you. The bats are, listen, I will be shocked. I will be not appalled. That's not the right word. I will be mesmerized if David Stearns brings it upon himself to go full throttle for a guy that has a lot of teams after him and an Eugenio Suarez, who is the top bat available on this market. I don't know what I would do. I would give away something on this channel again. It's been a long time since I've done a giveaway. I would do something like that because clearly Buxton is not going to waive his no trade clause. We don't know if Jarren Durant's going to be available with the Red Sox and how well they've been doing and holding a playoff spot. And Eugenio Suarez is going to be that guy. I mean, rest assured, he's going to be traded from the Diamondbacks with 35 home runs under his belt. But we're talking about the market of like a Cedric Mullins and Luis Robert Jr. By the way, I'm going to go off camera here for just a second while you talk about this. But Luis Robert Jr., a lot of Mets fans aren't high on him, and some Mets fans are high on him. Quite frankly, I think he could be the steal. I still think it's unrealistic that the Mets go ahead and go out there and get a guy like Luis Robert Jr. from the White Sox because his overall numbers this season and last season are abysmal. I'm not going to try to sell anybody on that. But he's having a stretch over the past couple of weeks to make a lot of teams think twice about what he could be for them down the stretch of 2025. Last 7 days, he's batting 500 with 1,300 OPS. Last 14 days, 364 with over 1,000 OPS. Last month of the season, he's batting 351 with over 1,000 OPS. He's getting hot at the right time to try to induce the trade talks. But the overall numbers, like he's good defensively, he's a good center fielder. He's not Tyrone Taylor, but the bat potential is light years above Tyrone Taylor. I think anybody knows that, especially going back to his All-Star season. but is the last month of sample size enough for David Stearns to take a swing? I personally think that Cedric Mullins is the more realistic get because and his numbers also aren't great, but it just seems like, especially with the relievers that David Stearns could potentially package in that deal, it would be just more realistic. But the upside of Robert has always been there. It's just about him showing, the baseball world that upside or not. And more often than not, he hasn't shown that upside. But over the past month, we've seen that upside. What do you think about that? And I'll be right back.
I don't care what. Imagine hitting 251. I'm sorry, 351 for an entire month, and that getting your average all the way up to 206. Absolutely not. Want no part of it. This is 2 seasons in a row. He has not been good. I don't really have too much to say about Luis Robert Jr. No, I don't want you. Luis Robert Jr. is what I'm calling you, and I have no desire for him to be on the Mets. And there's zero chance that Stearns throws anything of significance at him. What I do want to get into and ask, man, is in the chat, man. My man George and my man Oliver. Yo, is it raining outside where you are? I mean, is it snowing and is there hail coming down where you are? You care about Lindor's walk-up song. Well, how was Lindor's walk-up song last season? My girl, the whole crowd singing it. He's in my opinion, should have won the NL MVP because he plays both sides of the ball. And at the end of the day, man, we're talking about guys getting sent down. Cohen's asking for his money back. I read in here before. Yo, man, can we chill? Can we chill on my guy, Frankie? Yo, Francisco Lindor. Come on, yo. Listen. I don't know. I don't understand how Francisco Lindor is being asked to, give his money back by Steve Cohen, according to some in the chat. The My Girl is a huge problem. Huge problem for some people. But overall, man, come on. Luis Robert Jr., like you said, he's hit 351 the last month, right? Yeah, that got him all the way up to 206. Absolutely not. No, I don't want any part of that.
I figured as much, and we do understand that a lot of you all in the chat about Lindor are playing. We understand that. But especially Oliver. I listen. I know Oliver is a big.
Yo, you telling me? Hold on. George is telling me to zip it. So George, you're not with all the. You don't really dislike the fact that he plays My Girl. Because you're saying he could play it at his house. I mean, is that bother you that much, or is that just all a bit and I'm missing it? If that's the case, I'm sorry.
I think it could be. I think it could be the bit. I think it could be the joke of the chat.
All right.
It could be. It could be. If
that's the case, then
so.
then all right. I back off. If not, though, you gotta chill.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, listen, I talked about Luis Robert Jr. from my point of view for probably the past year and trying to see those overall numbers go up. I don't think it's a realistic play for the Mets, but there's this part of me in the back of my head that knows that if he goes to any NL contending team, he could be a Jorge Soler 2.0 in what the Braves got about 4 years ago on their way to a World Series win. And I know that seems silly to say. It does seem really silly to say, especially with the way he's posted the past 2 seasons numbers-wise, but he's got that kind of upside. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't think the Mets are going to take that swing at Luis Robert. I don't even think the Mets and the White Sox really have that kind of established relationship trading-wise, but it would be interesting to see where he does end up, is all I'll say. But going back into this post game about what we've got on the post game stream today, going over this game. Juan Soto 0 for 1, 3 walks. I mean, again, super selective at the plate. Pete Alonso continues to struggle 0 for 4 with a strikeout. The numbers are going down for Pete Alonso.
That first at bat, though. That first at bat. I liked the first step back. I liked that he was going with authority to the opposite field and off the bat.
Sure.
I thought that was, it was just a little bit down towards the end of the bat. I thought that was gone. I think that's a good sign for Pete.
Absolutely. I think that there are signs of Pete Alonso turning it around, maybe perhaps more so than a Francisco Lindor with the at-bat to at-bat basis, but just the overall numbers in production, like the numbers are the numbers. We can talk about, advanced statistics, exit velo, all that good stuff when you talk about hard hit rate, etc. But there is something to the aspect of what are the overall numbers over the past few weeks. And for a couple of guys in this lineup right now, they are not good. So again, salute to the bottom of this lineup for really carrying this team. And I do think that Brandon Nimmo deserves a lot more love than he's been getting. A lot of people were down on Brandon Nimmo to begin this season, and he was off to a putrid start. I'm not going to lie. He was off to a putrid start. Putrid. And the injuries in the offseason, last season, plantar fasciitis, is he even going to be able to play the field for the New York Mets? But Brandon Nimmo, slowly but surely, over the past couple of months, has really come into his own. He's not posting, the super high on base percentage that we're accustomed to seeing from Brandon Nimmo in the 370s, 380s. He's more so to the speed of a 340 OBP. Actually, someone fact check me because I don't even know what his OBP is right now. Brandon Nimmo's stats as I look it up on my screen real quick.
326.
What is it?
His on-base percentage is 326. Overall, 326. His OPS is 784. And, it's interesting when you look at these numbers next to each other, who back in May or even into June would have thought that right now Brandon Nimmo offensively is having more of an impact on this team and is an overall better hitter than Francisco Lindor.
Say that one more time. I was looking at the chat.
If we go back a couple months, a month and a half, a month into the season, who possibly would go back then and say, you know what? I think Nimmo is a better hitter than Francisco Lindor, more impactful hitter than Francisco Lindor this season.
Nobody would say that.
Nobody. And the numbers don't lie. And I mean, if you've watched this team and Brandon Nimmo, I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine who he's a big Yankee fan, the guy I grew up with, and we were talking about how we don't even I'm me, I'm one of those guys, I don't even know what OPS plus means. I know what OPS is. I've gotten that far as my understanding. I don't there's certain things where it's just too much for me. I still pay attention to average. I get it. It's not everything. But Nimmo's a perfect example of this new analytics of baseball where, hey man, pulling the ball, getting into good counts and being aggressive, it's a little bit more impactful than the Nimmo of old, who was looking at a lot of strike threes and not really driving the ball with authority and not with that launch angle that gives you those extra base hits. And, we've seen it from him, and thank God we have, man, because we've needed every bit of it this season.
100%. And the same thing could be said for Jeff McNeil, right? Who was thought of as the opposite field slap hitter to get on base any way you can type hitter. And he himself came out and said that, screw that. That hasn't worked for me over the past season and a half. I'm going to go and try to drive the baseball, in the gap over the fence. And Jeff McNeil quietly is approaching 10 plus home runs. And it's not going to be, the 20 plus that he hit in his all-star season. But, to see that kind of power is really great. And yeah, I mean, Brandon Nimmo coming into the season, I know you said 784 OPS. He's batting around 260, 18 home runs. He's going to be a 25 plus home run candidate again for the New York Mets. And that is just not really the Nimmo that we saw in the leadoff spot years and years ago when he first came up in that high on base percentage guy. And we've seen that, like you said, 323, 325, somewhere around there in the on base percentage category, not really in the 360s, 370s that we've seen him post before. So, yeah, man. I really do think that Brandon Nimmo is one of the catalysts as of recent, but I think that to get really to where the Mets offense wants to go, there's one name in this lineup that definitely needs to turn it around.
I know you're going to say
in a major way.
I know you're going to say he's your guy too. He's your guy.
He is my guy, man. He is my guy. It's Mark Vientos. It's Mark Vientos.
That's the difference right now, man.
He's the X factor. Really,
the X
right now
factor.
he's the X factor for
When
sure.
he almost hit that pitch out tonight, because Vientos is him hitting that crazy ball that's high up out of the zone and knocking it out. I was like, when that ball first came off the bat, I was like, oh shit, he's all the way back. I thought he was all the way back for a second just because that was a pitch out and he almost got it out of the park, man. No, man, Vientos, dude, 1,000%. That is what this team is missing right now. He was supposed to be the number 2 hitter or like the number 6 hitter and be a monster. We saw him do it last year. We saw him emerge and then do it in the postseason. We saw him do it when it mattered the most, when everything was on the line, and it just almost felt like this ascension was just, it was definitely going to happen this year. We're going to see him turn into being, one of the better offensive third basemen in baseball, and clearly that has not happened. And at that point, listen, when Jeff McNeil got hurt, and we're thinking about Vientos, we're thinking about Beatty, we're thinking about Acuna, I remember saying to my pops, yo, McNeil might not make it back on this team. Where will we be without Squirrel now?
I agree. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. I mean, I was the one that was down on a guy like Jeff McNeil. I was the one that was including him in some trade packages in the offseason with that deal that he's got, right? I mean, he's came back and, he's changed the approach. And that's what happens when you say, hey, Eric Chavez, screw you. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize a little bit more of the power side of my game. Whereas Chavez likes to lower the strikeout percentage. And this is really one of the last things that I'll leave this stream with is that it's been very public that Eric Chavez would like to prioritize more contact overall, regardless of the quality of it, over the power, over any sort of launch angle, doubles, OPS, etc. And that's fine. I get some of that, right? But when you took a look at Francisco Alvarez, when he was a part of this team in the first half before he went down to AAA, you want to know what his strikeout rate was? Because I don't know off the top of my head what it was, but I can tell you it was less than 25%, which is not usually what we see from Francisco Alvarez. We're seeing 28, 29, borderline 30% from Francisco Alvarez because usually with hitters that know how to put the ball over the fence, they're also going to strike out a ton. And we see that, and we have seen that with Mark Vientos in the past as well. He goes down to AAA, hits 11 home runs, has a strikeout rate of nearly 30%. Nobody's batting an eye. Nobody cares because he's putting the ball over the fence. There are certain hitters in this league that you will take a 30+% strikeout rate. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, who cares? As long as you're putting the ball over the fence consistently. I can tell you, Eugenio Suarez is definitely one of them. I don't think he's quite at 30%, but he's around 27, maybe 28%, if I'm not mistaken, the last time I checked when I did a video on him. So there's certain hitters where you take the strikeouts, but you take the long ball when it presents itself because that outweighs the strikeout rate in which they are producing. And that's just the new school thinking of baseball from a hitting perspective. And that's something that I really do think. Kyle Schwarber, same thing. I mean, that guy, is anybody caring that he's hitting 215, 220? I mean, some people might. Nick, you just said that you look at average. And, if that's the case, then Kyle Schwarber is probably not a guy that you want because he doesn't hit for average.
That's just because I'm old. It's just because I'm old.
Well, no, but he hits you 40+ bombs.
Listen. I when I first saw him being put in the leadoff spot, I was like, "What is happening right here?" Like my mind is exploding. This is not the baseball I know. This guy is a cleanup hitter. But hey, man, there's clearly something to it. And like I said, my mind, I'm old. It's hard for me to evolve. But I need Eric Chavez to be a guy who is doing some evolution, and it's not happening. So he's got to go. I loved him as a player. I thought he was a great player. I loved it when I was like, him as my hitting coach. I love that. Blah blah blah. Come on, man. At the end of the day, we're not going to be crazy reactionary and just go ahead and get rid of, both him and Barnes right now, obviously. But, I hope that there's something where somebody has spoken to him, or at least somebody has spoken to Alvarez and said, you don't need to listen to this guy because this is not for you. This approach and what he's talking about, that's not for you. We need you. You can be a guy who hits 230. Give me 30 bombs. And he has all the potential to do that. And, especially from the catching position, that is something that is wildly, valuable. And then in the playoffs, when you really, really need your best defense as well, and you have one of the best defensive catchers in Terrence, Alvarez, if he's really got it going at the plate at that point, he can be the DH because there's a void there, especially with the Vientos not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So, yeah, man, we absolutely have to make sure that a good hitting coach has an overall, approach and philosophy, but you have to be able to amend that to each individual. And unfortunately, it does not seem like Chavez and Barnes are able to do that. And it's hurt us so far. Hopefully, we're figuring out how to work through that. And some of these guys are kind of just being their own hitting. Let Juan Soto be the hitting coach. He can just let him be the hitting coach right now.
I agree. I mean, listen, if there wasn't public record of what Eric Chavez has stated in the past of what the philosophy has been and what he continues to very publicly still defend, he's going after fans that go after him. He is like making it very public that, he is not going to change his ways and that there is this solidified process in place and that there's no deviation from it. Then, maybe I wouldn't be talking about him so much. But you know what? Because this offense has struggled, because he himself has called a team meeting to address the lack of hitting with runners in scoring position, because the president of baseball operations was just asked by a reporter, what do you think is the problem with the lineup that they haven't been hitting? He said, really, I don't think it's about the personnel. I think it's about nobody hitting with runners in scoring position, and I don't have an answer to that. Guess who is going to be on the hot seat when it's all said and done? It's going to be one, if not both, of your hitting coaches. And we're going to have to relive another hiring process for someone that can come in here and adapt the philosophy to what the new age of baseball is all about. So that's what I'll leave you all with.
I got a couple questions for you because we haven't talked all season. I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I got some time.
First and foremost, I got to say, before I ask you a question, I got to say this for everybody that wants to get hyper crazy reactionary. So as far as Mendoza, because he's been getting a lot of heat this season, which again, I think is crazy. He's one of the best managers that I've seen on this team in quite some time. And he pulled all the right strings last year. It only makes sense that sometimes he's not going to, roll sevens this season every single time. But tonight, I thought he pulled Montas at the exact right time. So for everybody who's always saying he's not doing this, he's not doing that, blah, 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 he did that properly, okay? But a couple questions, 2 questions for you. Just random shit that's happened throughout the season.
Sure.
Yo, is Anton Richardson that good?
Apparently.
Is he this good at being a first base coach? Because between Soto and everybody, the overall percentage, everybody knows what it. Come on, man. Yo, is he that good at being a first base coach?
He's always out there with his stopwatch, man, every single time.
How are we so good at stealing bases? Guys like Beatty, guys like I said, like Soto, they're just walking into leads, and it's just like, yo, what is? I'm telling you, man, I don't know if I've ever seen a first base coach have this much of an impact on a team.
I agree, and you know what? I would not think twice. I would think twice about it, but the broadcast. Keith, Gary, Ron, they're all saying Antoine Richardson. You can see it on all of the SNY cuts to first base. He is timing up all these guys. Juan Soto has a career high stolen bases at 13 right now. It's not rocket science. The Mets have like almost a 90% stolen base rate.
The percentage is crazy.
It's insane.
It's insane.
And this is a team that we all wanted to prioritize stolen bases like a couple of seasons ago when they were not doing enough of that. And now they have guys that, Nimmo, who is a speedy guy, but never has really taken advantage of that full potential on the base paths of stolen bases, right? Lindor, we know he can steal bases. He's, 2020, that's Lindor.
In big spots too, though. They're not just doing it. They do it in big spots.
Right. Correct. That's a good point. I think Antoine Richardson is the real deal. Honestly, he has to be.
He's that nice. I hope he has no aspirations of becoming a manager. But my other question for you, and this has been going on all season, and this is my absolute guy. I love him. I don't like to pour on. I don't like to make a big deal. It started last season, even with a very famous call in one of the better, regular season games on the last day. Yo, what's up with Gary's gauge of the fly ball this season, yo? What is going on here?
Dude, you know what? That is, I actually am very happy that you pointed that out, dude. Very happy that you pointed that out because noticeably, Gary Cohen, especially early this season,
Happened
I
twice
mean, I'm
tonight.
sure there. Oh, twice a night.
Twice
I
tonight,
definitely
he
missed that.
either got too excited or like was like, he just seems like he's not seeing the fly ball well,
Yeah.
man. And I don't know what's going on with Gary, man. He's getting old or some shit.
And you're not crazy about that because I've noticed that so many times where there's going to be full excitement in his voice off the crack of the bat, and it's barely a warning track shot. And so I definitely agree with that. I mean, listen, we are blessed with the booth that we've got.
The best.
I mean, age gets the best of us sometimes. It is what it is, and age is really the number that's like an unstoppable force
Sure.
sometimes. So I'm not saying that Gary's going to call it a career anytime soon, or he should, but there is some noticeable differences with that. I do agree as it pertains to your question, but I mean, with the in-game analysis with two ex professional, high level professional athletes, right? In the Mets organization, and Gary, who notably played minor league baseball for a long time. I still think that's top tier, entertainment that we get to listen to on an everyday basis. And you know what? I mean, we always compare these guys to Michael Kay, and Michael Kay. I listen to Yankees broadcasts, and I, I I don't find any enjoyment out of Michael Kay. I don't find any
No, Michael
enjoyment.
K is trash. He's
That's
not
a
just non enjoyment.
that's a
Like
corporate voice. It's
it's
a
not even
corporate
just
voice.
that. He's also just like beyond just being the crazy homer, which typically across New York sports, almost all of our commentators, they do a very good job of not being homers and calling games, fairly. And I mean, the Mets broadcast, they highlight the other team and what they're doing or what they need to do in a particular spot more than any broadcast that
100%.
there is. They are, I mean, like my boys, like I have a buddy who's a really big Giants fan, but his dad's a Mets fan. So he watched a lot of Mets games and he's like, yo, and they got a very, well renowned booth as well, especially with when Kruko and everything was there. Even they say he even says like, "Yo, man, y'all are the best. They are unequivocally the best." But Gary, I'm telling you, I noticed this about middle of last season. Remember on that Lindor him run, he was calling that like it was an easy, lazy fly ball that on the last day against the Braves, and then ends up getting over the fence, and that ball did carry. But yeah, man, I just something I wanted to see, make sure that I wasn't the only person noticing that my guy Gary this year, when it comes to thinking the ball's out or thinking the ball is going to be a fly ball and it ends up getting out, he's just he's not seeing it as well.
Hey, you're not the only one. Listen, I've said that on my Twitter account multiple times, and I've got a lot of people agreeing with me in this Mets fan base that has happened on a lot of occasions. So I definitely agree with you in that aspect. 100%. 100%. Anything else? We got any other
That's
questions?
it, man. That's all I got for you, brother. As always,
I
I
love it.
appreciate you having me on. I love talking Mets with you. Over on my channel, I talk everything, but I talk specifically Knicks during the season, taking a little hiatus just here, like that 6 weeks of after the season to kind of chill, because I don't like just putting out content for no reason, man. I like only talking when
Sure.
I really got something to say. But me and my pops also do a show. It's called He Did This to Me. We are mostly optimistic Knicks, Mets, and Jets fans. We also talk about the sports stories of the day. CP, man, you've always shown me love. One of the first people with a real following to ever really show me love. So I will always appreciate you. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I'm sure you all will be seeing Nick on these post games sooner rather than later as it pertains to the season as well. Please, the link to that YouTube channel where you can find Nick is in the description down below of this very stream. So before you exit this stream, not only do should you, I should say, I can't never tell you what you all to do, hit the thumbs up button, of course, but go ahead and subscribe to that channel. Link in the description down below. A lot of insightful content if you happen to be a basketball fan as well. A lot of Knicks talk on that channel as it pertains to New York sports. And you can find Mets content there as well. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. I appreciate everybody who dropped the comments in the live chat. If I were to go up and down this live chat tonight, Nick, I would probably just lose my mind. I mean, so many people that contributed, and I absolutely love and appreciate the support. So, as always, 3-2 victory. It's a series victory for the New York Mets. Tomorrow, we haven't talked about this, and we won't go in depth about it because we're ending this stream. Shamanaya versus Undecided from the LA Angels in game 3 of this series as the New York Mets are attempting to get their first sweep. Do you remember when their last sweep was? Because I think it might be the National Series. Am I just tripping here? Like when was their last sweep?
Hey man, we just went 10-20, so it's been a long time.
I think it was the National Series at home before that brutal stretch with with Atlanta and the Phillies. So make it a sweep. Why not? Right into the off day high, and then go ahead and beat the Giants. So I definitely appreciate that. I'm looking at chat here, scrolling for some more comments. But listen, that's going to do it for us, CP and Nick, on the Mets post-game show. Appreciate you all. Let's go Mets. See you all for another stream tomorrow, I'm sure. Maybe 2, depending on the pregame and the postgame. Peace. Let's go Mets.